Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Discourse for today, December 9th, 2022. I'm your host, Tristan. Last stream of the year. Last stream of the year. Holy moly. What a year it has been. Hello, everyone. My name is Tristan. I am the host of Step Back, which you can find at stepbackhistory.com. And I'm the co-host of It's Probably Not Aliens, which you can find at, there's a podcast, you can find it at probsnotaliens.com. I stream on Fridays at noon, typically, although that, I don't know what next year's streaming schedule is going to look like. I have to work some stuff out. We'll have to see what fits, or I should say, what I want to do with streaming in the future. Because, I'm having a strategy meeting next week to figure out what I should be doing. Anyways, if you wish to support my work, there are several ways you could do so. You can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory, and for as little as 84 cents a month, you can support my continuing creation of content, and in return, you get bonus content and early videos and all that kind of good stuff. If you want to watch my stuff in the most supportive way, you can sign up for Nebula at nebula.tv/stepback and watch my stuff on there. It's also early, also bonus content. That's all stuff that you can get. Not to mention all of the other wonderful creators on Nebula you have access to as well. If you want to, you can do channel membership, or if you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Prime membership every month. And if you choose Step Back, I'd obviously be very grateful. And if you have things like if you want to do things like super chats or bits or Twitch subscriptions, they're all welcome and appreciated. Not necessary, but they are welcome and appreciated. If you want to watch my latest video, which is on the political compass and how it must die, it seems to be doing pretty well. It's actually doing very well. I'm actually a little surprised. If you want to watch that, you can do so. My next video is not coming out for a number of weeks. Actually, it's not coming out for over a month. I'm taking some time off for the holidays. So my next anticipated video release is set for January 16th. Not that I haven't already been working on it. I actually already, you know what? It's Christmas time, right? Why don't I show you guys an early, this isn't a final version, but I'll show you an early draft of the thumbnail that I'm working on for the video. Or should I say that I'm working with Hot Cider on. Because I think it's a pretty cool thumbnail. You guys can see what my next thing is going to be about. But we don't have a ton of questions. It seems like not a lot of people are in the chat, so it's nice and chill. This is like when there's like a snow day and nobody shows up to class. Or when it's like a rainy day and no one shows up to class and the teacher's like, all right, I'm going to show you the cool shit. But here, I'm going to show you guys the thing that I'm working on with Hot Cider. Let me see if I can. So this is a rough version of the thumbnail for the next video. It's so good, isn't it? So, oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the final version looks like. Howdy from snowy northern Poland. Well, hello. Yeah, so this is a video I'm working on called There's Always Been Trans People. I haven't, what's it called? I'm still in the research phase of it, but as far as interesting stuff, I've gotten at least 4 trans YouTubers to participate in the video, or who have agreed to participate in the video so far. So, all very exciting stuff. I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped for this project. With the title, There Have Always Been Trans People. That's what I'm going with. So that's who we got here. Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah, so to continue my stuff, if you want to submit questions for future streams, or should I say just for this stream, because it's going to be over a month before it's going to be almost a month before my next stream, probably. I don't know when my next stream is, but it's going to be a while. So, if you can get a question in today, go for it. I'll see if I can answer as many as I can. There's not a whole lot in the chat, so. Is one of them Jesse? I don't want to confirm just in case someone backs out, but you might not be far off. All right. And also, lastly, if there's anybody who this is their first stream that they're watching of Step Back, first of all, thank you very much. You're very much appreciated. Thank you for coming. And I would like to I would like you to say hello in the chat because we've got a very awesome chat community and I would like you to join in. So that is that. The one person who I can say is going to be in the video is going to be Mia Mulder. Because I could not do a video called There Have Always Been Trans People about the history of trans people and not have Mia Mulder in it. That'd be ridiculous. Right? Right. You know what I might do? If you guys are interested, since I know you guys are typically Step Back viewers, if I have leftover... How do you feel about this? I'm looking for more content to make into shorts. And I plan on making a lot more shorts in 2023. And I'm thinking that if I've got some questions that I get submitted to the stream that I can answer in like under a minute, maybe specifically the ones that are like expired or something like that, I could answer them in 1 minute and I could put them up as YouTube shorts. That might be fun. Once I've answered all the patron questions, obviously. Sounds like it's kind of cold in Europe. Here it is cold. It's only it's cold, but it's not like snow cold. It's like 1 degree Celsius right now. So it's just above freezing. But it's getting colder. So man, all right, I gotta warm up. For me, streaming is sometimes it's hard for me to like, you know, I gotta get the ball rolling, and once the ball gets rolling and I start getting my like, you know, my vibe going, then things start getting really good. That's why, like, what's it called? If you show up late to a stream, that's usually a good thing, because I feel like the best Step Back stream stuff comes at the end. Which is probably bad for the way that streams work, but that's just how I am. Hey, we appreciate the Y2K video. Well, thank you, Vivian. Always love to see you doing conspiracy and fashion nonsense. Such a great explaining for the layperson. Oh, thank you. I'm actually on that note, Vivian. Next year, my plan is to do more conspiracy and fash stuff. Those are the 2 topics I plan on doing a lot more of. So, starting with, I don't know when it's coming out, but I've already gotten started with what's it called? I've already gotten started with a Ancient Apocalypse video. Approximately everybody in the entire world told me to make content related to Ancient Apocalypse. And I thought, since it's like, it's probably not Aliens adjacent, but not exactly probably not Aliens content, I thought it would actually be better to make a Step Back video about it and use it as an opportunity to get more people listening to the podcast. So I am probably going to make, I'm already like kind of in the zone for a Props Not Aliens thing. Or I'm already in the zone for an Ancient Apocalypse video. Shit, well, it's the end of the year. I can also tell you about some other stuff I plan on doing in the next year. Why not? So there has always been trans people video. I've already told you about that. I also plan on making, I guess, the Ancient Apocalypse. That would be one. But I plan on making a video on the Iraq War. So that's going to be coming out in late March, because it's in late March, it's going to be 20 years since the beginning of the Iraq War. So definitely got to talk about that. And let me see. And I'm doing 2 videos in November about the Kennedy assassination. Specifically doing one about how the Kennedy assassination happened, and one about the Kennedy assassination conspiracy theory. So I feel like that's some pretty good content to look forward to. Because also next year is the 60th anniversary of the death of JFK. Recently discovered you through Probs Not Aliens. It was enjoyable so far. Well, thank you, Lord Fortus. I'm glad you enjoyed the podcast. We're very happy with it. We just recorded the last episode of 2022 last night. And Scott and I had a very long and very nice talk about how much we're enjoying doing the show and how things are doing. So, yeah. If you ever need anything on Shinrikyo, turfery, or general apocalyptic violence, you know where I'm at. True. Corrections episode. The corrections episode is going to be the first episode of 2023. So it was going to be the last episode of 2022. But then we accidentally booked 2 episodes for the same date and realized that it made no sense. So we're moving, what's it called? First of all, 2 things about the corrections episode of It's Probably Not Aliens. 1, we're moving it to be the first podcast of 2023. Though we may be taking a couple weeks off at the beginning of January, just because of holidays and schedules and stuff like that, because a lot of stuff's going on in Scott's life. And so, he needs a little bit of wiggle room, in early next year. But also that corrections episodes, we were thinking we might do quarterly corrections episodes, depending upon how many corrections we have stocked up. Because otherwise it would be either a very long or 2-parter corrections episode. And corrections episode are not exactly great content for first-time listeners, so we'd like to space it out if we can. I don't know if I'm aware of YouTuber Mini Minute Man, who also does debunking of archaeology, paleontology, science. I think I've seen some stuff on his stuff. I should probably get him on the pod. Thank you, Vivian, for talking about how good I look. I appreciate it. I'm very happy with how things are going. I haven't, so like, I don't like, what's it called? Because weight's a complicated subject to talk about publicly. I don't go into it much, and I don't want to trigger anybody, because talking about people's weight can be it's fraught with emotion in many different ways. So I don't want to go into detail, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of work on myself. Yeah. Including lately just not so much losing weight as building muscle. Like this morning, I did 44 push-ups. I thought that was fun. Magic the Gathering being the J6 bomber and so on. I really worry about the liberals getting sucked into a QAnon-like space and funneling right through institutional distrust and apocalyptic narratives. Maybe. I did not know that Magic the Gathering was being accused of being the January 6th bomber. God damn. RimWorld is consuming and it's y'all's fault. Thanks, but also curse you. Starfinny, this weekend, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I know, I just call her Magic the Gathering. This weekend, I'm going to strike the earth so fucking hard. I'm going to kill so many dwarves you don't even know. It's going to be nuts. I've been thinking about dwarfs all week. And on the weekend is the time where I don't have to watch a baby all day. So this weekend, dwarfs will happen. All right, I'm going to do the questions because I want to ensure that we don't have any questions at the end of the stream. Because I don't know if if any of these are going to make it to the next stream. So, yeah. Okay, first one is, what's a province in Canada that stereotypically all other provinces hate for both valid and foolish reasons? Like, what's Canada's equivalent of California and Ohio? I would probably say it is the two central provinces. It's Ontario and Quebec. A lot of people hate Quebec because Quebec has a lot of special considerations to guarantee its sovereignty that a lot of people don't like. And there's a lot of just, especially out in the prairies, a lot of hatred for Quebecois people, to the point where, like, if you have Quebec license plates, you might get your car keyed if you're out in Alberta or something like that. In Ontario, because Ontario and Quebec, the two provinces together represent almost half the population of the country. And so very much those two provinces dictate what the political landscape's going to look like. So people especially in the prairie provinces, don't really like Ontario or Quebec. And Quebec also doesn't like Ontario because Ontario represents Ottawa and English Canada. And so, yeah, that's the main thing. I think that is. But also, everyone out here fucking hates Alberta because they're an Alberta is not so much a province as it is an apocalyptic death cult that is trying to destroy the human race at all costs. Do a video on Soviet/Russian anarchism? Maybe. I did a video a long time ago on the Makhnovites and the sort of Nestor Makhno's sort of Ukrainian army, the Black Ukrainian army, which I definitely like. It's definitely high on my list of videos I should revisit. I always the tradition was that on Step Back's birthday, September 17th, I would remake a Step Back video every year. But I am learning through some talk with like the standard folks that there's a bunch of people who have found that a lot of YouTube creators don't realize that very few of people's audiences have actually watched all of their videos, and it's actually not a bad idea to just remake videos if you feel like it. So I think I'm going to remake a video soon. And it's going to be fun. I might remake more videos, and the Makhnovite video is high on the list of videos I wish to remake. Or the Nestor Makhno video. I've also had a slight interest in making a video on the Kronstadt rebellion. But the thing is, and this is sad to say because I have a daycare to pay for soon. But the Russia video, the Russia two-parter did very not good. The general consensus I got from the Russia two-parter is, don't make more of those. But I still like making that kind of stuff. So what I probably will end up doing is making them as like, I'll probably end up making them as something like a Nebula exclusive. And then if I ever like need a video, like if I need to take a vacation or something like that, like if I'm away and I can't hit a sponsor deadline or something, then I might release it then. So that's the thing that might happen. But you like the Russia two-parter? I like the Russia two-parter too. It's just that no one watched it. They very, very underperformed. Especially part one. Part two got a little bit more juice, but in the last little bit, I had a couple very successful videos earlier in the year. I did a video on Dobbs on or what's it called? The Dobbs decision, I guess it's called, the sort of repealing of abortion rights, and the far right attacks on LGBT people that happened in the summer. And those two videos did stupid good. They got mad numbers. And then every video I made after that just looked completely tanked in comparison. And the only videos since then that have performed well have been the 9/11 Truther remake, which shows remaking videos works for some reason. And the other one is the most recent video, that the political compass must die. So, so that would be good. So I think that the next video on that's called "There's Always Been Trans People," which my whole concept for that video is that it's going to be a video about the history of trans people, and it's focused around telling trans people the truth about them, which is that as long as there have been gender, there has been transgender people, and that they are good, they belong, they are part of this species, and they always have been, and the people who are trying to dismiss them or call them an ideology are the ones who are wrong. I'm designing it from the ground up to be affirming and give those young people who are struggling with oppression based on their relationship to their gender some sort of love. That's the hope. Just something to feel good about in bleak times. That's the whole pitch of the video that I put out to a bunch of creators. So, specifically for young people, I want to hit a lot of like young people. Yeah, I guess there's some people who have kind of drifted in recently. Yeah, because there's like a bunch of people who joined in. Oh, I got raided. That's why. Oh, hi. Hello, Zacap raiders. I didn't see you there. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, I showed this at the beginning of the stream, but I'll show it again. This is the thumbnail for the next, or a rough version of the thumbnail for my next video that I'm very excited about it because I thought it looked really good, which is this one here. Like, look at that. Such a good thumbnail. I recently started paying somebody to make my thumbnails for me, and I got the same guy who makes Jacob Geller's thumbnails, and they are always so good, in my opinion. So that's my the Russia two-parter was so well done. I'm sorry it didn't do the best numbers. I watched it with a friend. They liked it so much they started binge watching your channel. Well, that's good. Maybe I'll have to do a little bit more sleuthing, because it could be that the Russia video did do well. It's just that it just looked like it didn't do well compared to other videos that came out earlier this year. We'll have to see, but yeah, I'll see what comes up with. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited. On the note of the trans hope video, or the wholesome trans video I'm working on. I'm excited to do it. I'm looking forward to it, and I've got some really cool people who are going to be doing it, who are going to be in it. So. All right, so I answered that question from Orange Man. So let's see what we got next. Remember I said I want to do an alternate history thing with the USSR as the only world superpower from 1960 onward after everybody in the US dies. Do you think computer technology could end up being kind of backward in that timeline compared to ours, since the USSR didn't really invest in computer tech development the same way the US did? Yes, I actually do think so. And also in 1960, like, I feel like a lot of technology development would be changed in a lot of different ways, because yeah, not only would you not have the sort of intense government investment in computer technology, but you also don't have the space race and the nuclear arms race to also kind of spur on the development of different types of technologies there. So Yeah, so there's gonna be a lot. There'd be a lot of technology would not be. I would argue we'd be in a lot less terrible of a world, but it definitely wouldn't have as many cool electronic doodads as we have today. I actually just started. What's it called? I actually just started working on a video. Or sorry. First of all, Belmiras, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I super appreciate it. I had the vague idea for a video, a novel, maybe? I don't know, something fiction-wise. Thinking through what the world would look like if, say, basically if the smallpox epidemic was either... The smallpox epidemic in the late 1400s was either not deadly or was, that the indigenous people, once they sort of got hit by the wave of disease, were able to rally and sort of fight back. And if like those sort of very early situations of like Pizarro and Cortez and Columbus, if they had not been able to easily overwhelm the Taino, Mexica, and Inca people, and sort of the relationship between between Europe and the Americas was a lot more like equal to equal rather than a sort of like a colonial relationship. And I started working on stuff about that, and I think that there's some really cool stuff that would have come out of that. So I started juicing that one a little bit, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. You can make it about the Vikings bringing smallpox that the Native Americans would have rebounded and have immunity by the time everyone else started showing up. That could be good, yeah. How much more carbon would be in the atmosphere if never invented nuclear fission? That's a good question. It's probably a lot, but also I have a feeling that if it wasn't for the technology race of the Cold War, you probably would have had the military buildup caused by the Cold War also put untold amounts of CO2 in the atmosphere. And I'm wondering if those would cancel each other out. Like if nuclear power, although by 1960 nuclear power already existed, so in some capacity. Like by 1950, the Soviets already had nuclear bombs. So if like the Cold War just like abruptly ended in 1960, nuclear power would already be a fact on the ground in some capacity. Might have developed slower, but I think it by modern day would probably be okay. All right, let's see what we got here. What's next? You're an RPG player, so a few other broadly speaking leftovers. Have you considered making an event where you play a TTRPG otherwise and stream it as a charity event? Well, Mitchell, aka Michael, yes, this has been, I have been thinking about this a lot, actually. Not only am I an RPG player, but I have been in the back of my mind considering a sort of side hustle as a professional DM. And I have been waiting for, at some point, hopefully doing a charity live stream D&D event. Yes, that is something I've been very much wanting to do. I'll give you a mild spoiler that there's a D&D episode of It's Probably Not Aliens coming out on Christmas, so look forward to that. But yeah, but that is something I am planning on doing if I it's a thing that I thought to do back in 2021 that I maybe could have done this year, but I learned very hard this year that it's rough. Like this 2022, basically all I could do was keep a holding pattern and just struggle to survive, because I had very little time because we were on a humongous waiting list for the baby's daycare. I basically had no time to do anything except take care of the baby and work. And I didn't get a lot of time to work in general. And being able to make being able to make a thing like a charity stream, which is like a whole lot of work and prep, was not a thing that could have happened. But next year could happen. Professional DM, how would that work? The way that it works, I have a friend who does it, and I think that it's a thing that I kind of want to get into. Basically, you just you DM for a certain amount of money per hour of the session. It works a lot. It works really well because there's a lot of places like there's a lot of situations where D&D is a thing that people want to do, but nobody has any experience in it. This happens a lot with like schools. Apparently, there's like professional DMs who get paid by schools to basically introduce a bunch of kids to the game. There's people who like do it for like corporate retreats and stuff like that. And furthermore, there are a lot of times where there's groups of friends who either want to get into the game and nobody wants to run it, and they would rather pay somebody to run the game for them, or people who are just looking for a regular campaign that has like a really like, you know, high quality and are willing to put down some money for that. I'm curious about, it's not going to be for a lot of money, and I don't even know if I will be able to set up a client base or anything like that. But I do think that it's a thing that I'm thinking of offering in the new year. Just because one of the things I kind of want to play around with a lot with my main hobby is game design and game stuff like that. And I would love to have things like RPGs and board games and TTRPGs in general be a larger part of my life. Do you think the perceived complexity of 5e is what stops people from DMing? I don't think it's perceived complexity. I think the fact that 5e is in the tabletop space, 5th edition D&D is in many ways not only considered like the most popular game. In many ways, it's considered the only game. There are a lot of people who don't even know that there are other types of games, and it's on the like, you know, simple to crunch scale. It's a rather crunchy game. Not a lot of modern RPGs are as intricate and hardcore in the rules as D&D is. The only reason why it's easy to learn is because it has an entire content creation ecosystem based around helping you learn how to play the game and play it well, which doesn't exist for a lot of other games. If it wasn't for that, it would be a very obtuse game and very hard to learn. But yeah, I do think that it's DMing is perceived as something very hard, and there was like an article that came out recently that talked about how New York has a dungeon master shortage. That now professional DMs are stepping in because New York City has so many people who want to play the game, but have so few people who are willing to dungeon master that the professional DMs are apparently cleaning up, and that seems to be the case in a lot of scenes. A lot of cities have a D&D scene where there's a lot of people who want to play and very few people who want to run it. And I'm one of those freaks that loves running the game. So, and actually I like running the game better than I like playing the game, I'll be honest. And so, hey, and then I'm like, hey, if that's a way that I could make an extra couple $100 a month or something like that, that'd be great. Because, you know, like my PC is dying, and my what's it called? And I have a daycare. I have daycare to pay for, and daycare is basically second rent at this point. And so I could use some extra money in my pocket for those things. The only thing I don't know about I feel like I've got the skills to do it. Like I've been DMing for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years next year. So basically a little bit over 5 years now. And I have been DMing like almost every week, if not almost every day. Not every day. Like, at least once a week, if not more than once a week, I have been DMing. Like, it's very rare that a whole week goes by where I don't DM a game of some kind. I have played multiple different systems and, like, all sorts of stuff. So I am very well experienced, and I think about it a lot. So I would love to do that. You kind of dislike the fact that D&D is the main RPG. I want to play something else, but it's only D&D over here. Yep, that is true. I feel that as well. I also just hate... I hate that too, but also I'm like, it's also I'd rather have to play D&D than not play anything, if that makes sense. You'd play a streaming game. A streaming game I feel like is a bit much for me. Not that, mostly because to me, like, actual play streams and stuff like that is such an absurdly saturated field that is dominated by a very small amount of very big creators, that to break through in the sort of D&D streaming world, you have to either already be a massive celebrity, or you have to have now D&D actual play shows have like multi-million-dollar budgets. So it's not like a thing that I want to compete in, because like if you want to compete in a saturated field, you have to do like one of three things. You have to either be doing it better than everybody else, i.e. you have to find a way to make a more high quality stream than Critical Role, which, like, good luck. They're like a multi-million-dollar business that has their own fucking Amazon show at this point. Or you have to do something very different. You have to, like, make something wholly unique and interesting that goes in a whole new direction that nobody was expecting. Or you have to be like the fast follow on that. Like, getting in on a new thing that is popular while it's still hot, or doing it better than the person who just established the new thing. The third option is to take two things and smash them together. The closest thing I've had to the closest thing that I've ever had to like an idea in this space is a thing that I am writing a pitch for a Nebula original series at the moment. So I don't want to go into details, but yeah. Is Shadowrun like D&D, or is it a video game? Shadowrun is a tabletop game that takes place in like a fantasy. It's like fantasy / cyberpunk world, and most of the game is focused on going into the net or something like that. That's the thing that it has a reputation for is being very complicated. Like, it's probably like one of the crunchier games out there. Any recommendations for a D&D TTRPG system for a first-time DM besides D&D? Yes. I think that the best game for starting as a GM is, it really depends on the genre you want, but I feel like the Powered by the Apocalypse system is the best one to start with, because it opens up there being a lot more like creative leeway and improv about things, so you don't have to hold as much in your head. Furthermore, like, it has a lot of mechanics based so that like what happens next narratively has a lot more prompts for you. Like D&D, it's got like a skill check system where if you try to do something and fail, you just fail. And there's no, like, they don't give you any idea about what kind of thing should happen. While like a Powered by the Apocalypse game has like a whole thing where like if you succeed, you succeed. If you like mixed success, you'll succeed, but there'll be a consequence, or you'll fail and there'll be a consequence. And that I feel like works a lot better for first-time GMs. What you should play in that system is really based upon what kind of genre you want to do. If you want to do something that is sort of in the D&D space, you can do Dungeon World. If you want to do something in the, what's it called? If you want to do something like, I think there's like Worlds in Peril is a sort of superhero game. There's or Masks I think is another really big superhero game that's sort of like more like a Teen Titans version of it. There's the Sprawl, which is the cyberpunk one, which is the one I played the most. Or Savage Worlds, I think it's like a post-apocalyptic one. That kind of stuff. But I feel like it's easier to pick up GMing with something like that more than it is to play something like Dungeons and Dragons. Because Dungeons and Dragons is much more gamey. Dungeons and Dragons, you have to like, there's like a lot more like shit you have to remember because they have a lot more micro mechanics for managing small things and stuff like that. Next time you bring up the Puebloan culture on Probs Not Aliens, you should clarify what it means a little bit. Yeah, that's in. I have that in the corrections. Somebody mentioned that already. If not you, I can't remember who it was, but yeah. Another thing you could also do if you're interested in doing something funny and wacky is you could play Savage Worlds. Oh, I was thinking Apocalypse Worlds. Savage Worlds is the one where you do initiative with playing cards and you have the exploding dice and stuff, right? Yeah, I've never played that one. But for some reason I thought you were thinking of Apocalypse World, which is the post-apocalyptic PBTA game that is basically the beginning of, or like sort of the game that all of the other PBTA games are based on. Have you checked out the system made for Song of Ice and Fire? I haven't. It's on my list though. I have a lot of tabletop games to read. All right. I feel like I've alienated a good chunk of the audience by this point. Let's do a question that's more. Let's talk about more fun things like terrible shit going on in the world. I'm curious, if you make any video you wanted, meaning you didn't have to think about the algorithm or what's currently popular on YouTube, what would it be? What would be my magnum opus? Ooh. If I could do one video on a topic that I did not have to worry anything at all about how it would perform. Ooh. At the moment, the one that I have in mind is Santa Muerte. That's one that I think is really cool, that I want to investigate really hardcore. Is one that I think would not perform well on my channel, because I have a feeling I've never done Mexican history on my channel, and I have a feeling Mexican history wouldn't do well. Plus, talking about, like, I have a feeling that one of the I'm only really allowed to talk about like 3 topics, or else my video won't perform well. And like Mexican drug cartels and Catholic syncretism are not one of those topics. So I think at some point, I have it on my list to someday make a Santa Muerte video sort of on the DL and put it up on Nebula. That's the plan. Or release it without a sponsor. That's another thing I could do. Will Kissinger outlive Twitter? It does seem so, which is sad. Because that would be the greatest day on Twitter in history. The day the Queen died was pretty good, but yeah, Kissinger dying would be so good. Catholic syncretism is special interest. Yeah, I know. But also, I'm learning that if I make anything even slightly different from the very specific topics I'm allowed to make, the video tanks. And now, like, you know, I gotta get decent conversions on my things. I gotta get people to buy Curiosity Stream with my videos now. So all my videos gotta do well in some capacity. So I have to focus on things that I have to find things in the sort of Venn diagram that overlaps what I want to do with what will actually do well. And I have to think about that more often than I used to. because, you know, I got bills to pay. Doesn't mean we can't have fun. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of really cool videos to make. There's a lot of videos I really want to make that are also things that that will do well on the channel. My next goal is to find all of them. There's a void of Mexican history for leftists on leftist YouTube. I know. I might just like sit on it. Like the thing about it is that I could release it and then just not make it a sponsored video after keeping it on. What I might do, if I make, like, the strategy I might have for something like that is make the Santa Muerte video, put it on Nebula as what's called Nebula First, which is that when you, it's sort of like a thing you can flag on Nebula, where it's a video that was put on Nebula a significant amount of time before it came out on YouTube. And then, like, maybe a few months down the line releasing it. Because there's never going to be, like, a day where making a Santa Muerte video would be particularly useful. Unless, like, I did something like, you know, made it, put it up on Nebula, and then saved it for, like, I don't know, like, saved it for, like, Dia de los Muertos or something like that. I'll probably also say that starting next year, to all of the people who are patrons who are in the chat, like Pim there, that the bonus content I'm going to be doing in the future is not going to be its own section of the video anymore. Now it's going to be its own video, because apparently that also works better with the Nebula system. So, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. You were studying something about 9/11 for a PhD program a good while ago. Could I turn that into a video? Maybe. I'd have to go back to my research. My research was, like, mainly, like, one of the reasons why my dissertation never went anywhere is because I was finding it very hard to find the thing that I was trying to do. But my PhD dissertation topic was very academic, and it was very full of theory. So in some ways it probably wouldn't have done well as a video. Because my video was, my PhD dissertation was about studying memory formation. So there's this, like, kind of like interdisciplinary field called memory studies, which is the study on how people remember things, and how, specifically for me, like, how cultures and societies form memory around things. And I was kind of curious about the sort of transition from short to long-term memory of a big event. So, how something goes from, like, how you can trace something moving from news to history. And I thought that 9/11 would be a really good example of, like, something that had a lot of documentation, of, like, you know, people talking about it on the day, and having a, like, day by day, second by second record of lots and lots of people talking about it that drifts into becoming history as it turns older and older. The first project that I was working on, which I kind of hit a wall and then I kind of dropped out of my PhD before I could proceed, was a study of the Wikipedia edit history for 9/11, for the 9/11 page, and trying to study how, like, the edit history showed the change in language and the development of narratives and all that kind of stuff. But you can imagine that would be a fairly hard sell for, like, your average YouTube viewer. about a study of the Wikipedia edit history for the 9/11 YouTube or 9/11 Wikipedia page, and then sort of dissecting that and like, for, like, sentiment analysis and, like, the way that different keywords and narratives built up and stuff like that. Because I was kind of talking about how whenever a major event happens, the difference between news and history is that whenever an event happens, it starts off as a smaller personal narrative, and over time turns into, like, everybody, like, 9/11 starts with everybody having their own first person narrative of what happened. You know, you think of it as like the flashbulb memories of you being told about it, of the news, the TV being brought into the schoolroom or anything like that. And then as you get older, or as like the event gets older, what happens is that in a sort of like Darwinian sense, the various different narratives start congealing into fewer larger narratives. And to me, like when news becomes history is usually when that sort of process distills down into a handful of dominant narratives. So, and typically it seems to boil down to a established narrative and a counterculture narrative. Like the JFK assassination boiling down into into the narrative, into the established narrative that it has, and the sort of anti, like the countercultural narrative, the conspiracy theory. And that I was trying to see if I could use Wikipedia edit histories to get that in real time, but yeah, it never really panned out. Maybe someday I'll go back to my PhD and like I'll actually finish it, but it was a lot, and you need to dig deep and have a lot of motivation to finish a PhD. And like I've got a business and a son. Throwing a fucking dissertation in there, it just feels like it would be a bit much. But I was trying to, and I was also trying to use like machine learning, processes to do the analysis of large databases of text, so that I could look at it statistically rather than like, you know, reading every individual edit and starting to see the narrative show in sort of a graphical format. Because my dissertation was basically trying to establish this theory of like how history is formed, and then second, develop this, develop basically the field of the digital humanities. So I was going to be doing a bunch of experiments that had to do with studying like how to do, like basically trying to pioneer some new techniques in how to study internet sources as historical primary documents, which like there's not a whole lot, like not a lot of historians have used the internet as a primary source yet. And so I was trying to figure out how to do that in a, like, you know, in a good way to use the internet as a source to study for historical documents. But it was too much. Actually, what happened is that the third year of my PhD, my wife got a job in Toronto, so we moved to Toronto. And then my supervisors, one went on sabbatical and the other one had a lot of like personal stuff go on at home and was not accessible. And I had a lot of time struggling figuring out how things worked, and I was kind of not really able to figure out how to get any of this digital humanities stuff to work. And at the same time, that year that I moved to Toronto is when Step Back took off. And Step Back started doing really well, and it basically took over my life. And so after a year passed, I realized I had made like no progress on my dissertation. But also like finishing a PhD was not going to get me anywhere. That was also starting to weigh down, because like all finishing a PhD would do is make it in some ways harder to get a regular job, and would be positioning me to go and try and become a professor, which is extremely hard to do. There's like this endless sort of churn like of adjunct professors and stuff like that. And so I was like, I don't really want to do that anymore. And so, and then Step Back was doing so well. So that's sort of the big things. So I was like, do I do this thing that is building me a career, Step Back, that's fun and fulfilling, and I'm good at it and I'm doing well? Or do I focus on this thing that will not lead to a career, that I'm not good at and I'm not doing well at it, which was my dissertation? So it was a pretty obvious choice by the end of it, and I dropped out. Hopefully that makes sense. Because I'll say some people, like my mom, were not pleased with this revelation. My mom still, ever so often, tries to be like, you could always go back. You could always just do your dissertation again. And I'm like, no, I don't wanna. What was my graduate thesis when I was doing my original history degree? I took the course option. What's it called? The school I was at had a course-based option for getting your honors. And I decided to do that. Just take some extra fourth year classes. Because there's like a sort of weird thing. So I've talked about this a few times on stream, but I know that not everybody has been to every stream, obviously. But I actually did really bad in high school. Like I graduated with a D- average. And so to go to university, I had to take a sort of community college course that was I had to take a community college course that had to deal with basically upgrading your high school marks so that you could go to university. And I did that, and I did very well in that community college course. It was 2 years. It was like 2008 to 2010. After I had spent 2006 to 2007 going to school to be a record producer / audio engineer and failing hard at that. But then what happened was that my GPA was so high in the community college program that when I eventually went to university, they just gave me a fuckload of credits. They gave me basically my entire, basically everything outside of my major was covered by how well I did in community college. So when I went to university, I was a first-year student who basically didn't have to do anything except for my history major to graduate, which meant that I could have gotten out in 2 years, but I stayed for 3, and I did my honors and took the extra classes, and I just decided to do a lighter workload. And so I was only ever in 4 classes a semester, and I decided to do more academic activities, clubs, and I was in the academic senate in the last year and stuff like that. And then I took also some fun courses too. Like I took the graphic novels class. I took an online journalism class. This will just show how much fun Tristan is. I took an American politics and I took a Middle Eastern politics class in the poli-sci department just for fun. But I didn't end up doing a graduate thesis or a master or a honors thesis. I did do a master's thesis, if that's what you're referring to. And I did 2 master's degrees. So I did 2 master's theses. What's it called? I did I did a history master's and I did an American studies master's. The American studies master's was on post 9/11 Islamophobia and studying the sort of development of Islamophobia from 9/11 to the present at that time, which was 2000. I don't know if I froze then, but basically it ran until about 2013 or 2014. Basically, I wrote an entire thesis saying that Islamophobia is getting worse, not better, and that it's transitioning from fear and moving to a position of hatred. And almost like a week after I handed in my dissertation or handed in that thesis was when ISIS established the caliphate, and basically everything I predicted came true. So that's fun. And my history master's was on the rebuilding of the World Trade Center. I thought there was an interesting story in how after 9/11, after 9/11, you had this destroyed footprint of these buildings, right? What I thought was really cool, and this is sort of what my master's thesis was about for history, was that if you think about it in a material situation, after 9/11 happened, where there used to be two 100+ story skyscrapers combined with like a mall, a major subway station, and like a whole bunch of other buildings, like World Trade Center 7, and like there's a bunch of buildings. You now had an empty pit filled with debris and destruction. And at the same time, you had three competing forces trying to build whatever would come next. They knew that 9/11 had to be a memorial of some kind, or that Ground Zero had to be a memorial of some kind, because there was this need in America to have a place for people to grieve such a huge event, especially because there were a lot of people who died who their remains were never recovered. And so as far as it goes, like that place is where their body is in some capacity. Either it was vaporized or pummeled to dust, or, who knows? So there had to be a memorial, but also in the wake of the War on Terror, Ground Zero also had to be the site of a sort of patriotic war memorial that had to make the case in concrete for the U.S.'s permanent occupation of the Middle East. And third, it was some of the most expensive real estate in the middle of like the beating heart of Western capitalism, New York City. And it was owned by Larry Silverstein, who is a real estate developer in New York, who was suddenly on the hold for this building that he was supposed to be making profits off of, and would like, as a real estate developer does with undeveloped real estate, would like for it to start developing money again, right? Like, so there was this capital incentive to make sure that there was something that was making money, because something that was making money for him before no longer was. Then you had to make a war memorial that justified the War on Terror, and you had to make a memorial like that remembered the dead. And essentially what happened is it failed at all three. And that's sort of the argument I went with. The first thing that got rebuilt was the Freedom Tower, World Trade Center 1, which you guys probably know. It's the big new tower. That has some aspects of the sort of forever war stuff to it. It has it's 1,776 feet tall. It has like a whole, if you ever go to it, because I had to go to New York to do this research, it has this like extremely intense security measures. Like it has all of those like concrete barriers for truck bombs. It has like reinforced plate glass on the first like 20 floors to make them bomb proof. And like the inside has like heavy duty security. Like when we went inside to just like take a look around in the lobby, we got like very brusquely kicked out. So they built that, and I didn't even start construction until 2011, a full 10 years after the destruction of the World Trade Center. And talking to a building manager, I learned that one of the issues is that because of the sort of 9/11 curse, and this should surprise nobody at all, that even though all of this office space got rebuilt, nobody wants to rent it out. There's like, I think Vogue magazine is the only like major business that actually has a headquarters in the World Trade Center. But basically like it has a huge vacancy problem. So Silverstein ended up, and Silverstein wasn't making it, like it took so long for them to rebuild the World Trade Center that Silverstein ended up just giving it back to the city. So he just basically took the bath for it. He got a massive insurance payout when the Twin Towers fell, because he took out an insurance policy on it. Because as anybody would remember, in 1993, Al-Qaeda did blow up a truck bomb underneath the World Trade Center. And so because of that, when his insurance expired and he had to, re-up his policy, he bought basically terrorism insurance. And boy, did that pay off, So he got a lot of money for that, and then it took so long for them to rebuild the World Trade Center, they just fucking gave up, and he gave it back to the city. But basically, the capital angle, it didn't like they weren't able to rebuild, they weren't able to get the office space back. The mall wasn't even complete when I went there in 2014, and or it might have actually been 2015 when we went there, and like. The mall and like the big underground station were still under construction. So Capital didn't win. They weren't able to use it to make money. The memorial had a whole bunch of issues that have to deal with the fact that if you study, this is getting super nerdy, everybody, but you guys asked, that if you, there's a whole field of studying memorials and how they function and how they are good. And it's called memoriology. And I did a lot of study about dark memoriology, which is sort of like trying to make historical memorials for places of great tragedy. So I studied a lot of people who talked about what makes effective, like for example, studying like the Anne Frank house, studying the sort of the way that Auschwitz's sort of memorial experience works, things like that. Do truthers make much of that, the fact that a Jewish guy got a big insurance payout from 9/11? Oh yeah, the truthers definitely milk that for all it's worth. That's why you always hear that, like, did you know that the owner of the World Trade Center took out insurance for terrorism right before 9/11? And it was like a year before, and it was because his insurance policy had expired and he needed to start a new one. And in that time, since he last got it, there had been a terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. So, yeah. Anyways, so in this thing, I learned about all of these like sort of aspects of a successful memorial. And the main thing, like if you think about the Anne Frank house is designed. Where's Pim? Has Pim been to the Anne Frank house? I don't know. It's in your country, and your country's very small. So I imagine you've been there at some point. But the Anne Frank house has some aspects to it that are very important. One, it's quiet. They go to a lot of work to make sure that it is not in the center of all of... Yeah, dark memorialism. That's actually what it's called. Like basically, like to make a successful memorial, it has to have a sort of pilgrimage aspect to it. It can't just be like in the main thoroughfare. Okay. So one thing is that the Anne Frank house is not on the main path of things in Amsterdam. Second, it has to have a sort of transformative action when you go inside. There's a path you take through the Anne Frank house that also takes you through the story of what Anne Frank went through. And involves a lot of transitions, important transitions, like when you go up the stairs and stuff like that, that have to do with getting sort of deeper into the experience of understanding the dark history that happened there and moving away from sort of the outside world. This happens in a lot of this. You can see that the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. does a very good job at this. It's pretty big on that one. And if you think about things like a lot of like Auschwitz, for example, or Auschwitz-Birkenau, or no, yeah, just the Auschwitz concentration camp memorial. If you ever go to Auschwitz, it's not like in the city, right? You have to like actually take like a special bus tour and basically make your day about going to Auschwitz. And that is intentional because you want to make sure that like it's not just part of your tourism thing, that it is a thing you are taking out of your day as if you were like going to the graves, like to an actual graveyard to memorialize the dead. The same with the Anne Frank house. And it has to be a quiet space. Memorials should put effort into making sure that they are quiet because they're supposed to be spaces of contemplation and places of genuine mourning, because these are places where actual people died. And so there are people who that place is the resting place of loved ones of theirs. And so it has to also function as like an actual graveyard. So those are the things of a successful memorial. The 9/11 memorial has 0 of these things. The 9/11 memorial at Ground Zero is in the middle of downtown Manhattan. There's no transitional architecture or anything like that. It's just a big open park, which means that essentially it's tourists who are, on their way to go see Rockefeller Plaza and like all the other various, downtown Manhattan sites, because it's kind of close to like Wall Street and a bunch of other things. So like it's full of like tourists who are just stopping by the Ground Zero Memorial on their way to see some other things. And also like it's a park, and it's one of the few like parks in the area, except for like Zuccotti Park. So also it's a place where just a lot of people who work in the buildings go to like have lunch, basically, right? And its whole construction is like built around this web of names on these plates that's surrounding these big reflecting pools. And the big reflecting pools are almost always broken because they're huge. They're way too big for any normal fountain, so they're almost always broken. And second, it doesn't work as a contemplative space because not only is there tourists and stuff like that, but they also have like street vendors, hot dog vendors. There's usually a bagpipe procession of people who are there, typically like a sort of like formal police thing. And so the whole 9/11 memorial there is not a space of quiet contemplation and mourning for those who died there like it would. And also the design of the whole place was a whole shit show beforehand. And so like there's that. So that's how I said that, like, the memorial itself doesn't really work. And then the sort of function, the thing that they made to function for the Forever War is the 9/11 Museum, which is below the Ground Zero reflecting pool. And the way that this works, the way that this museum works, is that it's supposed to be a sort of memorial type stuff with like artifacts from the museum. Problem is that artifacts from something as huge as 9/11 means that the artifacts are humongous. Like, like they're beams of steel that are like, several tons, but also like lots of like small art installments and stuff like that. But as a museum, it is a prohibitively expensive museum. Like, I think tickets are like something like $50, $60 a person to go in, which is wild. And then also, before you go in, you have to sit through a movie that basically is a whole bunch of stuff talking about why the war on terror is good. And it's like got like a bunch of people from like, it's got Tony Blair in the video. It's got George Bush. It's got like Ariel Sharon, I think, is even in it. And like, just like, it's like almost all about like why the war is good. War is good and all that kind of stuff. And then you take this huge ass escalator down to like the bedrock of the towers. And it's this huge imposing space, which I didn't really see like how like this it didn't really see like it functioned much as a memorial. It felt like an art museum is the thing, because besides like the little exhibits, or besides like the exhibits of like, this is the piece of iron that survived. Like, I think there's like that cross shaped iron girder or whatever is still down there. But for the most part, this area, which is called the bathtub, because the footprint of the Twin Towers was sort of an expansion of the island. So like the island they had to like build a sort of like bedrock around and then have the tower built on top of that. And so you're in this huge thing of bedrock, which basically just means you're in a humongous cement cube, which is not exactly the most pleasing of spaces to be in. And so it has like sort of all these like mini pavilion things that have different sort of art exhibits, but because of that, it's not very human. It's a museum, so there's not like what I called like informal memorial architecture, which is stuff like oftentimes if there's a place, a memorial, there's usually a spot where people put down personal mementos or like, like informal things of people leaving behind things to memorialize the loved ones who died there. Because it's a museum, there's none of that. So it's very clean. It's very clinical. It's very inhuman. It has a few artifacts, but mostly it just has art pieces. And the main thing it seems to do is make you think that the war is good. And so I was like, this museum fucking sucks. And so I concluded that like really the 9/11 memorial like fucked up at all purposes that it tried to accomplish to figure out like how to rebuild this area. And now it's like this giant like waste of space. So that was my history master's thesis. Isn't that fun? You're now thoroughly convinced there's a powerful video within me about dark memorialism and societal memory that has the energy of a Jacob Geller video. Oh man, I would love to have a Jacob Geller. Jacob Geller is like the YouTuber that I try to be like the most. He's so good, and I just want to be him so much. Hey Matt, thank you for the $5 super chat. Did I hear about Castillo in Peru got arrested for trying to do a coup? I heard about it. I don't know the details though. I don't know anything beyond that is a thing that happened. Someone asked who Ariel Sharon is. Ariel Sharon he was the leader of Israel at the time of 9/11. Anyways, got this question from... There's two different alternate histories, one written by Turtle Dove, where humans are already started to colonize other planets by the late 20th century because Mars is actually habitable and has native life. Do you think that's over-optimistic? Like, even if Venus was a tropical paradise with continents made of coal and gold, it wouldn't be possible to transport resources from the Earth. Yeah. There is a ton of very good... like very, very profitable resources in space already that don't even require habitable planets. The main problem is the fucking gravity well. That it costs like, $10,000 a kilogram basically to launch anything into space. And that's what fucks us up. Funny enough... Oh, thank you, Zaybear, for the $9.99 super chat. It's kind of effective for those without solid memories of 9/11, at least in a propaganda way, because it's really the only tangible tether to something except everyone expects you to know about. That's true, although I feel like if you went to Ground Zero and you didn't really know the details of what happened there, you wouldn't walk away really knowing much. I guess you'd get the video from the Ground Zero museum, but that's about it. I think I've got around here somewhere. Let me just check something real quick. Got some detritus from right here. I think. Nope, that's baby stuff. I must have it somewhere. One moment. I'm digging through a shelf. My copy of Charity of the Gods. Okay, I don't have it here. It must be in my closet. I have like a whole bunch of brochures and stuff like that from the 9/11 museum that I grabbed because I just basically grabbed any piece of literature that I could get. Honestly, I also talked about this in my thesis. The best 9/11 memorial are not the ones that are the official memorials. In fact, I think the two best 9/11 memorials, if you ever feel like seeing a good 9/11 memorial, there's two. There's a church that's near Ground Zero that is really, really good, because what happened is that during the recovery effort for the 9/11 attacks, the church became a place where they put injured people, and so like a lot of like and also it was like a staging ground for firefighters. So like a lot of rescue people, but also a lot of people who died, or even a lot of people who survived 9/11 spent a whole bunch of time in this church. And the church just kept a whole bunch of stuff from that period. And they have like a whole section of the church that's dedicated to like sort of memorializing that time. And it's like a big, beautiful church that has like a whole lot of, what's it called? It has a whole lot of like wonderful, like human moments in there that I thought was really great. And I think that if you want to like, really see the like human, like the sort of human pain of 9/11, that church is the better place to do it. The other is there's sort of what I called the most 9/11 bar on Earth, which is that there's a bar that is near Ground Zero that had to shut down for a long time because it was so close to Ground Zero that basically it had to shut down until rescue efforts sort of went through things. But it was like a watering hole for firefighters before then. And after 9/11, when it reopened, like the New York Fire Department went back there. But what happened is that fire departments from around the world started sending like their patches there in like a sort of sense of solidarity for all the firefighters who died and like put themselves on the line to rescue people during 9/11, which, I'm like, there's a lot of people I'd shit on for like, for 9/11. I'm not going to shit on the fucking firefighters. Those people did like literal fucking heroics that day. Right. And so it's like this it's like this Ground Zero / firefighter themed bar that is just filled with shoulder patches for fire departments all around the country. And it's like, and I'm like, that's a really cool little place too. Did I visit Shanksville? I have not seen the night. There is a memorial in Shanksville. I have not seen it. I did not. I have seen the Pentagon one, but I have not seen the Shanksville one. I wanted to go, and if I had continued with my dissertation work, I probably would have gone at some point if I had ever found myself in Pennsylvania. But that one's sort of out of the way. The funny thing about the Pentagon 9/11 memorial, which is a decent memorial, is that because the Pentagon is so close by, you can't take any pictures because it's illegal to take pictures of the Pentagon. So there's very few pictures of like the actual memorial of the Pentagon thing. It's also right out in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's right by Arlington Cemetery, but not in like an easy way to get to. There's a Air Force memorial that's right by it, but that is it. There's no other tourist things to see near the what's it called? Near the Pentagon Memorial, which is good. That's the thing I told you. Is it a way to make an effective memorial? It's a quiet place, but it's not like, it's Virginia, so there's not even like sidewalks. Like, it's hard to get there as a tourist because you basically have to own a car to get there. You have to take a taxi otherwise, which, is expensive. I don't know if you've ever gotten a taxi in Washington, D.C., but it's not exactly cheap. The other place, if you ever find yourself in New York City, the other thing that I did that day that had nothing to do with 9/11, but is a thing you must do, is go to McSorley's. Please go to McSorley's. It's the oldest, I think it's the oldest bar in the United States. It's the oldest bar that is still open in the United States. And they still only serve like 2 types of beer, and that is it. And they're sold in like these half-pint glasses, so you have to buy at least 2. It's a great bar. It's it was like, outside of the 9/11 stuff, was probably my favorite thing to see in New York City. It was just this extremely old bar from like, Let me see if I can look it up. It's a kind of famous bar, so I'm sure nobody's like surprised about this. Yeah, McSorley's Wonderful Saloon and Grill. Oh no, that's in Toronto. McSorley's is in New York. Yeah, McSorley's Old Ale House. That's it. Two kinds of ale, light or dark, and sawdust on the floor. Good times. It's the oldest Irish saloon in New York City. It opened in the mid-19th century. Yeah. It was one of the last of the men's-only pubs, admitting women only legally being forced to in 1970. Oh, my goodness. It's pretty cool, though. How is that spelled? Here, I'll put it in the thing. Thoughts on cinema betraying her political party and principles? Why? What did she do? Did she endorse a progressive cause? Because I thought that she was doing her job as the official, what's it called? Main villain of, like, she was doing her job being the Democrats' person that makes it so that they can't do the progressive legislation, so they can just listen to their donors. Right? Like, her and Manchin were supposed to be the rotating villains. Where, like, the Democrats would be like, we would pass all of that great legislation, but it, god damn it, just for that god dang Kirsten Sinema. Kirsten Sinema left the Democratic Party? Wow. Really? After like, what's it called? I thought they would have promised her something nice after doing their work for her. Or doing their work. Maybe she was promised some, like, political favors that she ended up not getting. That makes sense. Is the United 93 crash site a little bit more effective since it's in the middle of nowhere? It might be. I haven't studied it myself. I don't exactly know what the design of it is either, but I don't know if it's because I feel like because it's in the middle of nowhere, it's not a very big one. Oh, actually, it looks like it's decent. Oh. I mean, I've never been there myself, so I can't really say, but it looks like it's got a decent design for memorialization. Wow. You know what would be the funniest thing that happens is if Cinema joins freaking what's his name? Andrew Yang's like third positionism party. That would make me laugh. That would make me thoroughly laugh. What's it called? The Forward Party, right? And then, yeah, also Cinema could just also become like a... she could just become a lobbyist. All right, my next question is, what is my thoughts on Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky? I've never read it, so I can't tell you much about it. I haven't read a lot of... I don't think I've read any, like, Russian novels. Are there 9/11 memorials that actually followed the memorial design principles? I think I mentioned them already. I would say that the 9/11 memorial that is the most effective is definitely the one that is the church in Manhattan. Let me see if I can find a... see if I can find the name of the church for you in case somebody wants to go. St. Paul's Chapel. That's what it is. Yeah, St. Paul's Chapel's the one that's got the what's it called? The really good Ground Zero memorial stuff in there. I'd even argue that the firefighter bar. Well, I should probably find that too. I'm just like planning somebody's trip to New York City now. Oh yeah, it's called O'Hara's. O'Hara's Restaurant and Pub is the name of the firefighter bar. It's in, I think it's in Greenwich Village, actually. Which is another place you'll probably end up going if you go to Manhattan anyway, so. Yeah. I should just do a 9/11 tour. I should just, maybe, what's it called? I know that Standard has its offices in New York, and maybe if I ever have to go to New York for something, I'll make like a impromptu video where I just shit on all these things. All right. How about a fun question? Do I have any silly holiday traditions? Ooh. Silly holiday traditions. I mean, my family has. I haven't been with my family on Christmas now for probably a decade. Mostly because my wife's family is more religious than mine. So we would always go to her family for Christmas, and my parents, I would see them like a week or so before. We're not doing that this year, but one of the things that I've been doing every Christmas since 1991 is watching the Muppets Christmas Carol, and I know almost every word of that movie by heart, and I watch it every single year. Even there's times where, what's it called? When, my wife's family, they do like a sort of Christmas Eve, like party. That's sort of their big Christmas celebration. And I would, cause the party goes until like 2 a.m, and I'm like, I can't do this. So sometime, if I get home, I'll usually get homesick on Christmas Eve too. So what I'll do is I'll excuse myself and go down to the basement, and nobody will notice because it's a pretty big party. And I'll just watch the Muppet Christmas Carol by myself. Because what's it called? It's, you know how, you might not know, but like YouTube actually lets you buy some movies. And so like many years ago, I bought the Muppets Christmas Carol on YouTube. And it's the only movie I have purchased on YouTube, and I watch it every year. Now it's just on Disney Plus. So that's easy enough. I lived and do live fairly near the Pentagon, so lots of U.S. military in the area, including some of my family. Yeah, when I went to go see the 9/11 memorial in the Pentagon, or near the Pentagon, you'll find this very amusing. So what I did is that I don't have a car, and also we didn't know how to call a taxi because at that time that we went, Uber was not allowed in Virginia. Uber was banned in Virginia, so. We went to see the 9/11 memorial, and then we were like, okay, well, after we do that, we'll go and see Arlington. We'll go walk around Arlington Cemetery because it's right by there and it's fine. But it turns out is that what people don't know is that Arlington Cemetery is really big, but it has only one entrance. There's a bunch of entrances around Arlington, but they're all closed off and they're just for hearses, basically. So Kelly and I had to walk by the side of a highway because Virginia doesn't have any sidewalks. We had to walk on the side of the road with in like the heat, like it was fucking summertime, so it was super hot out. Just on the grass by the side of the highway. all the way, like almost like 3/4 of the way around Arlington Cemetery. And like, you know, that like famous picture of like, or those famous like pictures of JFK being taken to Arlington Cemetery. And when you enter into Arlington Cemetery, there's these two like walls of shrubbery. So what happened is that there's no way to go from where we were to get onto the main road. So Kelly and I had to basically, like we were fucking Homer Simpson, emerging from the bushes. We had to like just pop out of these like famous bushes onto the middle of the sidewalk to get into Arlington Cemetery. And then after doing that, which took like, you know, a couple hours because like Arlington Cemetery is humongous. We then had to do all of Arlington Cemetery, which involved a fuckload of walking also. And then, because we didn't really know how to get back to New York or get back to DC, we had to basically walk all the way out, cross the bridge into DC. And while we were there, we realized like, oh, like when you cross, you're basically at the National Mall. And we were on the side of the National Mall we hadn't been to yet. So we're like, I guess we should, while we're here, I guess we should probably go see the Lincoln Memorial, right? And so we went and saw the Lincoln Memorial. And we were like, oh, but like we've got to the Lincoln Memorial. We had gotten at this point like 30,000 steps. And we were like, you know, that part where you have been, it's been so hot and you have sweated so much that like there's been enough time for sweat to happen and then for the air to dry it. And you just have like salt rings on your body and you have that just horrible smell that like comes with like sweating all day long. That was us. I was like, my face was like red. I was like dead inside. And we were like walking up like the fucking giant steps that go all the way up to see Lincoln. And then after that, we were like, oh, okay. Now like the sun's going down. Let's go get dinner. And then we learned another fact about Washington, D.C., which is that the National Mall area basically all closes down at like 5 o'clock. So there's like no restaurants to go to in like the sort of DC, like in the sort of National Mall Smithsonian area. So we then had to finally, now that we were in DC, we could finally get a taxi. And we ended up going to a Mexican restaurant that we had heard about that had like really good margaritas. And like they were like the best margaritas I had ever had in my life. It was probably the most memorable day of my DC trip. Oh man. But yeah, the idea of like seeing those like famous bushes that JFK's like coffin went through as it was going to Arlington Cemetery, and then seeing us like bursting through those bushes because there was just no other way for us to get to the other side of this thing. It was very funny. I will never forget that. But yeah, Xavier, to answer your question, Muppet Christmas Carol. Good times. But yeah, we did all of Arlington Cemetery too. And Arlington Cemetery is humongous and there's so many things to see and you walk all of it. So like, you know, we had to go see JFK. We had to go see the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Trying to remember what else is in Arlington Cemetery. There's a lot of stuff. I don't remember most of it because I feel like I was in like not the best of spirits that day. I'm gonna go find you a picture though. There's a also while we were in that side of the National Mall, that is also where the Vietnam Memorial is. Very famous Vietnam Memorial. And I took a picture. There's a picture of me. I didn't take the picture. Kelly took the picture. There's a picture of me there, and you can see that it is like, this is definitely like, oh my goodness, my light, like I am dead. Like I have, like this is you can definitely tell that I am somebody who has done so much fucking walking that day that I was just dead inside. Why do I want to see a bunch of monuments to American imperialism? It's tourism. There's like, I don't know. It's just because it's like, you know, monuments to fucking imperialism doesn't mean that it's not impressive or interesting to look at as a historian. Do I know anything about white supremacist accelerationism? Supposedly a series of attacks on power substations are related to that. I know enough that it's like, what's it called? I know enough that it's like people who are trying to like sort of like with Oklahoma City, trying to provoke a race war. I don't know what this sort of recent rash is about. I will say that. Yeah, here. Okay. This should work. I'm going to show you guys my day. So, okay, let's see. I'm going to guys show you some pictures from that insane day we had. So, come with me as we go to my Facebook. So here we go. So this is some pictures from the Pentagon Memorial site. As you can see, here, let's see how far back it goes. See my travel photos. Okay, that is definitely not. Okay. So this is what the Pentagon Memorial looks like. Like it's a bunch of these like sort of fin things. And each one of these represents a person who died in the Pentagon attack. As you can see, like there's the sort of year, what year they were born. And then sort of a list of all the people. And then that's the Air Force Memorial that's right by it. So then we try to go to, there's this another, that's the Air Force Memorial there, I think. But yeah, then we tried to go to Arlington Cemetery. There's Arlington Cemetery from the view of where we were. So we were trying to get into that cemetery. You see, like there's that fence right there. We're like, this should be fine, right? And then we ran into, a stretch Hummer, which is this very American, this is right by the Pentagon. And I'm like, of course there's a stretch Hummer. Of course there is. But then, yeah, look, you can't get in. Can't get in. So we were like, fuck. So that's us walking on the side of the highway trying to get into Arlington Cemetery. And those are the bushes there that we had to burst through to get onto the main thing. But as you can see, I already look like shit from that day, right? Like, look at that face. It is fucking beet red. I'm so sunburned. And then we, did Arlington Cemetery and saw a bunch of shit. Yeah. Oh, what is this? This is interesting. Medgar Evers. That was an interesting thing to see. Medgar Evers was a guy who was a black person who was lynched. And this is the sign, if you remember the woman who got canceled for taking a picture of her looking like she was yelling right by this sign. And that's the, JFK. I'm trying to find the actual thing. All right, sorry. So yeah, here we go. Here's like crossing over the river and seeing all this crap. Crossing the Potomac. There's what's his name? Fucking Jefferson. FDR. Eleanor Roosevelt. All right. Where's the picture of me at the, okay, I'm going to just, 1 second. I'm going to go and find the picture of me looking like utter shit at the Vietnam Memorial. Because it's a very funny picture. Okay. The only problem is that it's dark out. Oh yeah, here we go. Here we go. Oh man, that is a tired boy. Let me go and show you guys. So look, gaze upon my misery at this point. That is a person who has probably walked like 7 kilometers in like 35-degree heat. Like, look at that shit. And this is me trying to reenact there's like a famous like painting or something of the Vietnam Memorial that I was trying to do a bit of this. But yeah. Why was the lynch victim at a military cemetery? Because he was a veteran. He was in the army. You look like you're done with life in the picture. Yeah, like look at that. Look at like the sunburns and everything. Oh shit. And this is before I had lost 100 pounds, so like this is what real death looks like. I had just seen a cemetery, but this was the day where I was like, I feel like I'm going to die today. But yeah. Oh man, what a fucking vibe. I was trying to do the what's it called? If you got, I think there. I'm trying to remember what the painting is. Let me see if I can find it for you. There's like a famous painting of the Vietnam Memorial painting, because they did a what's it called? They did a parody of it about Star Wars. Yeah. Get this bigger. I found it on Pinterest. I need to get a better one. So you've probably seen this one before. So I was trying to do this. If you've ever seen, probably seen this. This is a famous painting of the Vietnam Memorial, right? And so I was doing that, and then I also remembered that there's what's it called? There's someone did a Star Wars version of it that is very funny. A Star Wars parody. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. And so this is the Star Wars parody, and it's very funny. It's perfect. No notes. All right. I realized that I just did a stream where I went through my vacation photos with you guys for a trip I went on like 10 years ago. I'm very cool. All right. So let's see. How come Columbine and the Polytechnic massacres aren't brought up when talking about far-right terror? Columbine shooters loved Hitler to the point where the shooting on Hitler's birthday, and Le Pen was also a fan of Hitler, but these are just framed as attacks by madmen in history. Specifically because they happened in the late... Well, the École Polytechnique happened in 89, and Columbine happened in 97? 98? Something like that. And those were times where trying to talk about white supremacist violence was not a thing. And they tried to reinterpret. Now, Le Pen also did the mass shooting at École Polytechnique because he was a rampant misogynist. And that did penetrate. I mean, the fact that the anniversary of the École Polytechnique shooting is now Canada's day to stop violence against women. I think that makes sense. But also, like, if you saw with like the attack of freaking we saw about how I talked about the Oklahoma City bombing, it's that like law enforcement and sort of journalists in general are just not able to, seem to just not either be willing or not be able to make the connections that show that these people are connected to far right terrorism. Especially like what's it called? The Columbine shooters, like it very much was just based on the media narrative where like people were more shocked that a kid could do that and didn't have much to say on the, like, you know, the beliefs and politics of it, because it was like the first school shooting, right? So but there's a really great Ask a Mortician video about the Columbine shooting and how that was not so much that they were like bullied teenagers who listened to too much Marilyn Manson as they were like radicalized into right-wing terrorism. How do we get pro-nuclear supporters to be pro-degrowth? I don't think this is an either or situation, but making the case for degrowth is going to be difficult in a sort of, because degrowth goes against the principles of a lot of the ways that both capitalists and communists think. And so I feel like if you can find a successful way to argue for degrowth, that's impressive, because I don't really know of a good way to sell it right now. Canada's first spree killer ended up fighting and dying from friendly fire in Rhodesia. Oh, dear God. I'll take it. So we got about 8 minutes left, and I have finished all the questions. We did it, friends. What should we talk about? What's everyone's holiday plans, huh? I am. So you guys know, I'll give you guys the lowdown on what next year is going to look like for me. That seems like a good thing to start with. Next year, my kid's going to daycare, so I'm going to be working on Step Back full time again, which will make me very happy. I am having a strategy meeting next week with Standard about how I should approach that, what I should be doing for my videos and stuff like that, whether I should be making bigger videos, more videos, or starting new projects. So we'll see where that goes. And I'm going to be focusing on doubling down on topics that work. And I'm going to be doubling down on studying other YouTubers and finding new things and experimenting in small ways to improve things, and really sort of taking the business and, content strategy part of my job seriously for the first time. 3 years after I went full time, of course, or 4 years after I went full time. So that'll be fun. And I am excited to see what comes out of that. But next year, I'm hoping that my videos were going to be a lot better and a lot more tailored to what you actually want to see. And as far as I have other plans, like for the holidays, I plan on going to the U.S. next week for about 6 days, and then coming back and having some dinner parties with some friends, seeing my family on Christmas Eve. Then New Year's. This is going to be my first, last Christmas we couldn't do a whole lot because Omicron was big and Kelly was just about to give birth. So we locked down hard to make sure that we didn't get COVID and would have to be sort of quarantined while we're in the hospital, And then right after New Year's is the fucking kid's birthday. Because his birthday is January 6th. Please don't just go to live streams. What? Anyways, New Year's coming. Step Back is going to change as it always does. I always I don't know if I told you guys this, but every year I always have a plan for what I'm going to do for the channel. 2021 was about preparing for the baby, basically. And that's why I slowed down my process so that I could make extra videos, so that I could take 3 months off in 2022. My plan for 2022 was survive. And I got to the end of the year and still had a YouTube channel, which was something that I was worried I wasn't going to do as recently as a month ago. So, so that's good. And yeah, so that's ballin'. And now 2023 is like, well, I've had a year where I had to kind of claw back tons of the time that I spent on Step Back. And now that it's back, I can think about how do I spend my time. Next year is the year where I go full out for strategy. I'm turning Step Back is going to turn into a real actual thriving thing is the plan. Instead of just, I somehow make a living by putting videos on the internet. And luckily now I've got Nebula and Standard to help me do that. So, do you have COVID safety worked in for your holiday plans? Cracking windows, masking when possible, HEPA filters like RC Rosenthal. Possibly. Most of my holiday plans involve me going to America. Which like, and also going to fucking red state America. So, in many ways, I think my plan is to, just not get it. I don't know. Or what's it called? I've luckily gotten like 4 booster shots and I've already had it before. And, the baby's is fully vaccinated too and has had it. And so I guess the main hope is to just get through everything and get home and not get sick and, cross my fingers really. As far as like other people that I'm meeting, if we come home and we're, not sick, then, all of the holiday plans are with people that we regularly meet with already. So they're people that we know are pretty safe, but, I know I should probably have better plans, but I do not, mostly because the most dangerous part I'm going to have virtually no control over anyway. All right, guys. Let's call it a year, shall we? This was a really fun year. I hope that I know that I cut back on streaming quite a bit, and I know that a lot of you guys really like the stuff that I do. I'll have to reevaluate my streaming strategy is going to be next year, but I'm hoping to at the very least, keep up what I'm doing now and see if there's anything else, making anything new make sense. But this has been great. You guys are always great. I'm so thankful for the support you guys have given over the years. And if anything, like a stream doesn't exactly make a ton of money, but I enjoy doing it because it is a great way to interact directly with my people, and it's a way for me to, in some way, give back a little bit for everything you guys do for me. So have a great holiday. Enjoy the new year. I'll be back before you know it. Let's raid. Is Lumiru taking, I know that I thought Lumiru had like stopped taking raids, but we'll find out. No, it seems like they're all right. Okay. So everybody be good. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.